North America, and that's really special. Christopher here, and we are here in Dallas, Texas, saying hello.
Howdy, y'all.
I'm John Simpson, by the way, and Christopher is handling the camera. And this is such a pleasure to be fueled and powered by REF. This is a wonderful ongoing educational that, I know that we cover everything between hair color, hair cutting, and also style. And today is something special that it's called seamless layering and invisible texture. And what is that? You think about haircuts that are happening right now. You start at the beginning of the year, and we had the prediction of trend that was a lot of round baseline bobs. You have still the evolution of in marketplace, which is the lob, right? The longer version, but also it's about different texture. Now, texture within every haircut, as we all know as hairdressers, we can overdo the haircut, we can underdo it, but this is a really great method of hair cutting that I think you can easily put into whatever repertoire you already use. The goal is that into seamless layering, creating invisible movement that happens in the hair, that if I want to wear it smoother, if I want versatility to wear it sort of the mid-wave or a full curl, you can. Seamless layering is broken down into 4 zones, and that first zone is going to be my exterior baseline. This is a dry hair cutting technique that you can do wet, but it actually, I think, you even have better success whenever it's dry. We're going to work with the outside line. We then are going to start to work within the first zone, that it's this interior sectioning between my parietal ridge and crown, and that break point between my high recession and temporal. We'll then move into temporal down above ear that works then throughout the back into the high occipital within the midsection of the back lid. And then, of course, our last section is working into our outside length. So, like into traditional European hair cutting, we are going to create a strong foundation line and then move on the inside. The haircut is going to be done on personal contours. So you always have, I think, a guest that is maybe a little hesitant towards texture. Maybe they're afraid of working with a blade or a razor. And sometimes I think maybe they've had haircuts that were just overly shattered because people, I think, start to dissolve away their inaccuracy lines of a haircut, and it ends up being a shapeless shape. What we're going to be working with are vertical lines, right, creating length, as well as planes that will either go to the opposite side of the head completely, working in angular elevation, or working on a degree of high to low. So we're going to be working with, again, 90 degrees, 40 degrees, 45 degrees, as well as almost a 180. And what those are going to reference to us is how much disconnection and short invisible layering do we want. So beginning, what we're going to do, if this were a guest with longer hair and I'm going to be cleaning it off, my way of doing this is I will split the hair center, I move this forward, I lay this onto the cape, I comb both sides flat, and then I will cut into the forward direction from back forward on both sides. Last, I will come into the interior section, head down slightly, just to make sure that I'm going to get all of the overhang or underhang that likes to happen. And I will start to balance my exterior, if it's going to be geometric and blunt, if it's going to be done into a V section or into a soft beveled round. So I can start to establish my line. Today with the mannequin, what I'm going to do is work from back to front, but I am going to create just a bit of a length of a lob, if you will, just to clean up the outside wisp. I'm going to just drop slightly. I'm going to mimic this like I would in salon, working into the pressure of the comb. I'm not forcing the sections. Is this fine, Chris, or should I turn her?
It's fine.
I'm going to work and section the hair, picking up what is my central point. Since we have no pressure, and nothing to cut against, I work the length into the back base of the comb. Thinking about, do I want it to be horizontally blunt and just more of a square line? Would I like it to actually contour under, where I would bevel both my comb and my scissor to cut an interior to exterior line to get more of a curvature on the outside? Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my first line, bringing all the section into the back, and then I will pressure cut my length. Long motions, creating my line, regathering and checking the section. Tapping the length back into the baseline of the comb, cleaning my line up to make sure that I have a really beautiful contour of the edge. Let's work around the side. Mentioning before that I would work this along and over the shoulder. I would work this over the shoulder. So what I would do is I would pressure cut this to the guest against the cape. Now that we've established that outside baseline, going to clean, contour this in. And this is just giving us that baseline to create then the inside.
And would you say that's the benefit of having the hair dry, that you can really see the line in its completion?
Yes.
Whereas when it's wet, it kind of tends to stick together.
That's right. So and let me backpedal, and thanks for that, Christopher. This is something that, this is a dry hair cutting technique. And I think dry hair cutting, this is not something brand new. Some of us are big fans. Some of us, maybe we prefer more of a classic wet. Now, dry hair cutting for me, I prefer it, number one, that it customizes the layering as well as the shape for that guest. I'm not forcing it, I'm not stretching it. Most people will either wear their hair in three ways. They'll wear it smooth, they'll wear it natural, or they'll wear it wavy. And, their variations of that are gonna differ, but what this is gonna do is allow me to see the weight distribution, the fall, and the weak spots of each individual guest. So by doing this, I will prepare the hair first, and on every single day, I will smooth the hair out slightly. I've prepared this guest today. I've prepared her with some of the leave-in conditioner from Ref. And also you could use a little shine spray. I will create this look first. I will smooth it out and prepare her for the haircut, and do sometimes in reverse. What generally would be done in a very systematic wet to dry. I'm gonna step back and just check my lines. I know I need to clean up my right side still. Bring that around, connecting my line. And the guest also gets to see this, that the whole look is coming together really quite nice. How does that look, okay? Let's see, you're my mirror today, Christopher, thank you. Here we go. Coming around, I like to cut it into the natural fall of the head, working from back towards to front. Because again, I am not forcing it to go against the grain. Oftentimes we can cut from the front outside into the depth of the hair, but I'm pushing the direction differently. So by working from the back ear towards the front, what that's doing is working in the natural fall of that person's head shape and body form. So it really customized that length. For fine hair, gorgeous, because I can see every little bit that I need to clean up. For those that have been mechanical abusers, that the interior of the hair, maybe they have a lot of different pieces that do need cut, it's instead of just working traditionally up, out, and down, by working on this next step of contouring into zone 1, this is going to let me clean up all of the inside sectioning as well as create my outside line at the same time. Yeah? So what we're going to do, and we can come back to this outside, but we're just in a general lobbed form, right? First zone is I need to decide where is my length going to land. As I've just prepared, remembering that I went through with the ref leave-in conditioner, a little bit of the shine spray, I went through with, and just a couple of passes with my smoothing iron. My layering that I'd like to start is really within this interior cheekbone, is where I'd like my first layers to land. So working and starting right behind the ear, what we're going to do is we are going to take a vertical section. Vertical section here. Now you can see that the depth of the hair, I have about a true inch of width, yeah? But what I'm going to take that area to, after I take that section behind the ear, I over direct to the opposite side. So remember, my degree of separation is I'm working on the planes. So that plane is happening that I come completely opposite of where that hair is landing. What are the differences? Bringing this completely over, I'm keeping tension over direction. A full over direction and flat plane that is going to be 90 degrees off the head is going to give me the softest short to long layers. If I over direct that same section, but I stay at more of a 45-degree angle, I'm going to start now working slight elevation off of the head, and I'm going to start to have a shorter to longer exterior disconnection. If I start to work more of 180 or a high 90 off of the top of the head, this is where that over direction is going to start to elevate out, short into long. And this is where this is going to start to have that shag-like effect into the haircut. So the same method of the shape or the same method of the technique is there. You then choose how far the disconnection or the degree of layering needs to take place for that guest. So working in this zone at the ear, I'm going to keep her moderate in the middle so you can see the longer disconnection running through. Coming through softly, my outside line is here, right? My outside shape. I'm choosing my shape. I come through, I point cut in, and I'm point cutting, but I am not point cutting, I'm point cutting with intention. So I am not deep point cutting, I am not going in and creating V's. I am creating this side of the comb. Soft open spaces versus just a blunt line. Because it's soft, invisible texture. I don't need to do 2 haircuts or 2 trips. I want to create it in one. That high, the medium, the low, as it falls, you can see, I am now going to have high to low layering that if I just come right through, we don't see, right? So what's happening is as I over direct the hair, I'm working on that person's contour. I've gathered some of new and some of old. So there's my line, right? So now my guide has been created. Over directing, I am not trying to over direct back towards me. I am just over directing to the opposite side of the head, and I'm going to continue that motion. Long vertical sections, working my way forward. As I reach ear forward and towards that hairline, what I'm doing is directing it into the proper direction. There's my guideline. That depending on how much weight I'd like, this form of invisible layering and seamless layering is that I'm going to start to create my perfect contour around the face. Afterwards, you think so many times we can C-cut, we can create outside lines. What this is going to do is start to create the natural distribution of that person's weight of that haircut, of where it naturally should fall. You'll then go through and customize it later. Here's my guideline.
So the difference to this technique to what might be normal for a lot of people is creating the layers on the inside of the hair before you create the outside perimeter. and the layers are going to help the outside perimeter kind of come into fruition. Yeah?
Yes, exactly. So
Okay.
I gave myself an outside form to work on because with our mannequin, we've started fresh. But what you can see already with one side comparison to the other, beside length distribution, you can see that the weight has started to collapse in through this inside.
Yep.
Your outside form is already starting to take shape off of what this particular canvas is going to allow. How this collapses in, if I just look at that hair period, I can see that the hair still remains quite smooth. I have high, medium, and low, and we're not completed yet, but you can already see that even if I were to then shake that up slightly, I can have great, great texture that's already on this inside. And for these modern lobs and for these interior layers onto length, how do I actually get a proper distribution that it doesn't have just weighted lines? You know, I see so often our guests will come in brand new and they've had a layering that that's happened right through the interior, and that's fine, but it was left too heavy. So as it's been taken horizontally, it falls vertically, that weight just sits there on the top line. This allows me to create something a little more seamless. It allows me to create a different weight distribution throughout the head. So with this, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the opposite side of the head, okay? We're working back pedal. We're working in zone 1. I have my shorter line. As I move the mannequin around, I'm just going to turn her that you're seeing the back reverse side. Remember, my first zone is I've taken from the top crown to the back ear. That same vertical section, we're now going to over direct to the opposite side. Now our guideline has already been established, from my first section here. As I over direct to the opposite side, I find my starting point, and once again, I start to work my new lines into the haircut. Some of the old into the new. Let me turn here. Is that better if I turn it just slightly? Sure. Some of the old into the new, working as a traveling guide across the head. Guide range. It's now established, and I'm just doing a repeat after me. Traditional rules, if I wanted to work above finger and work this way, no problem. I prefer to cut to the cushions of my fingertips because it feels it's more natural to me. But that over direction, I am slightly keeping some length, yet I'm still reducing all of the weight around those edges. Yeah. Was someone chiming in with a question, Christopher, or was that just?
No, I haven't seen any questions actually.
Okay.
Come up on the screen.
Okay, cool. So as I turn her around, you can see again, I've started to reduce out the weight, the length on both sides. So we're not complete with this top lid yet, but I'm going to start working into the next zone of the parietal ridge. We work ear and ear. Now, working across this back line, we're now going to begin to pivot. Picking up from behind the ear now, we're going to start working over that back crown. Working through, not just in a pied zone, but that same vertical rotation, working my way across. Coming through, there's my guide range. Releasing the length. Remember, I'm point cutting with intention. Continuing over. This is perfect because now that same over direction and elevation at that soft 45-degree angle is beginning to work my high, my medium, and my low as it comes across the round of the contour of the crown.
And into the back length.
That's right. Well, because these next zones that we will be hitting will start to create my contour into, if you would, zone 2. You know, you're not just picking hair up and cutting, you're following the proper contour of each individual head shape, but creating my inside, my top, as well as my mid-length into the outside line, really, really easy breezy and simple. As I work to the opposite side of the head, working right behind the ear, again, my guideline. Everything has now been established from my very first guide that I had taken on that left side behind the ear. So now my high, my medium, and my low, working over the crown, you can see that everything will melt together, but also super simple, that if I need some movement, it naturally is going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
What this is doing as well is, since I am not creating just a hard blunt line, that I'm creating more of the soft and visible textured line, what this is creating are pieces that allow the interlock together. So as the hair wants to move, as you want to encourage lift and volume, I actually have a strong shape, even though it's creating a very soft silhouette over everything. We're now going to start working. We've gone through into that full round. We will come back and visit last this very top section, but I'm going to begin again right behind the ear. With this point, we're going to start working into my zone, and it's not going to be a lot, but we've created our outside line, our top from parietal ridge. I'm going to elevate up. And I'm just going to start to clean off that leftover weight that's going to connect to my very outside.
So this is, in a way, kind of creating a beveled edge on the bottom of the hair?
You are, just because now I'm not trying to create heavy, heavy weight along. I want something to just contour, smooth, and bevel around. But also, I think it's something that I don't want to cut my outside line away.
Yeah.
You know, and oftentimes we end up becoming a softer, shapeless shape because everything has been overcut.
That's one of the things I was noticing as you were cutting on the opposite direction, is you were really, really careful not to cut through your outline, that you were kind of cutting to the outline and allowing the outline to become a little softer, but not creating a new outline.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, because I mean, you created your foundation and your form, right? You and the guest have decided on where you need to take their length to. So this is just allowing me to create a full shape that now is already, again, you can see, starting to come together from both sides. I still have my outside line. You can see the collapsing that's starting to happen through here.
Yeah.
But also whenever I open this up, again, I have short, medium, and long layering, but it still is seamless all the way through.
Would you mind kind of turning it upside down and giving it a shake, just so everyone can kind of see the movement that's in there? Sure. I think seeing the shape that you get on the inside of the hair and that softness is really beautiful.
So if I look, right, I've not cut the back yet from my interior, but I can see the softness from my high, my medium, and my low. Without losing the length. That's right.
Yeah.
But already here, I can start to see the texture that's being built, right? But at the same time, I still have great, great strength.
Yeah.
Now, this mannequin is, I mean, she's a proper mannequin, but she is still, her hair is a little spindly, you know, per strand. So what's great is the strength that this creates is really something very special. If you wanted to just implement this into your cutting repertoire, into the top lid, into the framing, no problem.
Almost like a disconnected piece from the rest of it.
Sure. You know, I think everyone as a stylist, as an artist individual, we all have started to adapt our own cutting methods. And some of us prefer one classic and we stay with it. You know, to adapt seamless layering is, I had learned this and then adapted it into a method that I use and we use. I think it is become something that is the majority part of my hair cutting every single day in salon, as well as in tomato preparation. You know, it just makes sense to me on following the natural contours, the pivot points of the head, if you will. It just allows me to create something custom for the guest versus just another, you know, extra value meal like haircut. Again, I'm going to start connecting out from my inside to my interior. And now I'm going to start working from behind ear into my mid. And I'll start working around the zones of the head as I go. Instead of over directing to the complete opposite side, you can see that I'm working and bringing the over direction in. So it's not a full plane that's riding over the length of the head. If you're working on extremely long hair and you do want something very short in the crown to the longer length period, that is, again, where your over direction, especially when you've gone through in zone 1, you can over direct completely, right? To create a very short to long disconnect in the haircut. Today, I'm working through, remember this is zone 2, bringing that hair up, finding that length. This is just my connection from my top zone into my bottom. Following around, this is not a heavy cleanup section or a heavy haircut section. This is more of a cleanup. I've continued through with intentional point cutting versus working in and doing anything in deep V's or shattering the line. You know, shattering the lines and things, I mean, I would prefer to go in with a blade and just create something softer if you're looking for more erratic texture. I'm getting to the side behind the ear of the opposite. As I reach the ear, I am slightly over directing back just to keep as much length and weight of that outside as possible. So now that we've gone from zone 1 into zone 2, my outside line in the front, everything ear forward, I don't have much more here versus connecting and creating my outside shape. My last section, working into what would be the zone 3 or 4, depending if you're including your outside shape, your perimeter. I now want to decide how much weight release I'd like between my crown, into my middle, into my baseline.
Because it could stay exactly where we are now, couldn't it?
If you needed the weight, yes. If you're working on a moderate to low density of hair, yes, keep my exterior line. If you needed to create more of this shag or a mullet-like silhouette, we could definitely create something shorter into something softer. As the head form, you can see that her positioning has stayed central for the most, right? Just face forward. I do slightly work neck down, right? As I get into this last zone. I'm gonna keep her looking in this direction. But what we'll do is by softening this last section, I want to now just create enough weight release from my outside exterior and then my mid zone. I'm not trying to cut my connection point away. So by doing this, working again in through the middle, my elevation is now just out. I'll come through and just softening the edge. You can see that my point cut has become different because now I am opening up and personalizing as I go through.
But also the point cutting you're doing is like tiny slices versus, you know, how you see a lot of time it almost looks like the edge of a Christmas tree.
Well,
you know? So
yes.
This is kind of fine and delicate. It's not chunky and large.
No, yes. So yes, it is. It's fine and delicate for sure, because I could easily go in and just knock this out.
Yeah.
But again, I'm creating open space, and the open negative space is just that.
Yeah.
You know, it's contrast, it's erratic. That is not the intention of this effect. If you wanted to shatter it out and you wanted to create
A
heavy
chunky kind of
disconnection,
look, yeah.
well, sure, you know, and that's some people, that is what they prefer, you know, both as artist as well as guest. And, you know, I mean, we can easily do that. What I'm doing is softly connecting my zone 2 into my outside,
Yeah.
zone 3, 4.
Well, I think, you know, the words that you used were seamless and invisible. So keeping the vertical hair with vertical slices, as you're doing now, and very kind of delicate vertical slices that you're taking out with the points of your scissors, is keeping it invisible and keeping it seamless. If you were doing something that was chunkier, it would definitely be more obvious, and you would see it as a kind of a big piece taken away, and therefore you see that almost in the hair as a chunky haircut. Yeah.
Chunky.
Chunk hair.
Yes. Again, I'm discontinuing to that opposite side.
Very soft, very piecey.
Again, this is something that a lot of the guests that I work with, I mean, we do very clean, very geometric, very soft haircuts all day, you know, but at the same time, it's still something that whenever a person needs a refresh of the haircut, it's my go-to. It's a way that a lot of guests, they fall in love with it because it's a customized haircut for them. You know, I know we hear, oh, you know, what are the shapes? What are the sweet spots of the neck? You know, and I think all of that's relevant. Yet this is only following that person's contour. It's only working with their density, with their torque pattern of hair. So it really does customize the full look. Again, looking at that back, I can see that I have really seamless layers that are running through.
Let's pull this out so you can see in there how soft that is. Really is very gentle, very soft, but the layers, you know, the layers are definitely there.
This is something, and it'll make it personal, but I will do this a lot when I was doing more photographic work and, you know, the work with models, etc. This is something that I would use a lot, just because you really couldn't over clean up the haircut. But
Yes.
It also just gave them something fresh and movable that then you would go in and start to create the sets with. And I always, everything that I would work in education, you know, as we do, you work behind the chair. And it's become something in my chair that it becomes this, you know, from runway into real life, you know, it's session work. I mean, and who doesn't love that? Our guests, they like to become new identities of themselves all day, you know, every day. So why not? Right? So I hope that you're enjoying it. It really is something, remember, the over direction of the planes. We're not done yet, of course, but it's, again, the softest, furthest over direction. We can have high to low, working in that 45, which truthfully is about 80% of what I do often, right? Versus just low layers that are almost invisible. And then, of course, whenever you're working from extreme short to long in that over direction, high to low. The next section, or we're going to come back into this interior. The top lid working from my crown forward to my recession break.
So this is the nose at the front here.
Nose front.
Hello.
Hello. But again, I already see what's happening here around that outside. You know, for some people, that's going to be perfect because I think, you know, they either love heavy face framing or they just want something that naturally breaks to it. We find this a lot in our haircutting sessions that people will cut the corner away, you know, many, many times, and they'll cut through that guide where all I want to do is just distribute the weight, or of course you can strengthen it.
Well, I think what's nice about this is if it was, you know, blow dried with the round brush back just a little, you would get a bend in that would just softly move the hair away. And if it was curled with an iron, you got the lightness on the inside of there where those interior layers would lift the hair and give it some bounce, but you still got all the outside length present. So it's not like a short to long haircut at the moment. It's something that is soft and has got movement to it, but you still maintain the feeling of length. through there. So to your point, for someone who doesn't really want an outline shape at the front, that doesn't want particularly a face frame, this is a perfect way of creating that interior movement and softness.
Working through now the top lid, I go right to the crown's drop, right? So here, right where I get that bevel. I've already released enough weight in this top crown because that is going to be that perfect elevation that sits on the bag right into the length that you desire. But now I just want to balance out the central weight. Just like the last section I had done through, I will take now horizontal through the top sections, and this is a softer form of my point cutting. I do over direct forward, right, as I come through the haircut. So if I take this to the side, as I take a horizontal top, turn noses then forward.
Nose there.
I over direct from my short to my long, okay? Yes. And what I'm going to do, let me turn this just, is I'm going to take that same soft point cutting and balance out the weight from side and side.
And again, very delicate, soft pieces. The vertical pieces he's taken away mimic the vertical of the hair. There's nothing in there that's going diagonal. There's nothing in there that's creating a chunk out of the hair. So it's just very soft and very piecey.
As the seamless layering haircutting class as a method, this has been something that many will immediately use. It's become a game changer for them because it's a great way that they can create long layered haircuts, and not everyone needs a dramatic shape. People want shapes that are for them. So it has become something that many have fallen in love with. And again, I hope that you enjoy it as well. Before I go to that very outside, I just want to share, right? I can now see my softness is moving from that inside out, right? Over directing in. I'm bringing the haircut up. Now, I prefer to stand, because also I'm a little bit of a jolly green giant and I have long arms. If that is not you, you can feel free to step around and forward, just keep your elevation the same, okay? So I would be coming out the plane of the head. I'm still gonna cut it as I choose, right? That works best for me, but please don't feel that you have to lay over the guest in order to do this. I'm still over directing forward. There's my outside line. I'm now gonna start to create my shaping for my front face frame. So here, you're gonna start to create your outside to inside line, right? Now that I've released the weight from that top surface. That same thing is I'm going to take now my ear forward, over direct, taking that away. Ear forward to the opposite side. And I'm releasing those corners away. Since we are elevated, we're still working that high to low. So as I step around, let's recomb her into position. Apologies for the elbow. So now you can start to see your softer shape that's starting here. At this point, this is where I can choose how much of a fringe am I going to start working a curtain fringe? What is it going to be? Okay. Let's go into still ear forward. Let's bring this around.
Section next. Go forward. There we go.
Yeah, working my way in. And work to the opposite side. Same thing, just personalizing. And last, I'm going to take this central point.
And that's a piece from both sides.
This would be what we design as money piece. This is all of the things, right, that people live for. So whatever you would choose, if you're going to wear it super short to long, right? If I wanted to make it more of a money piece, I could do a traditional now fringe line. I would take piece and piece, over direct side and side,
Point in.
cut short to long, cut short to long, right? If you wanted it to be a sweep, right, depending left or right, I would bring everything over to one side. If you're trying to sweep, and again, short to long.
And the short hair would then push the long hair.
You would then go from your high point into your low point. Today, I'm going to keep it on the softer side if everyone's okay with that.
I think as well as more and more people that kind of swap and change from a middle part to a side part, and you kind of have to give them something that's versatile enough to fit both.
Yeah.
So this is perfect for that.
Well, you know, I just think, you know, this lob, if you will, the lob is all of the things, you know, and I personally, I'm a big fan of it because it's become the new swing bob, inverted bob, you know, all of that kind of bob. But I think it's nice because it's the new modern long hair, right, for guest. So back to the same technique of holding and elevating out, I'm now going to come through and I am going to have a deeper point cut. And just start to personalize.
But you're still keeping everything very vertical.
Vertical.
It's not going. I think the difference is you see a lot of people point cutting and going too diagonal, and it almost kind of creates another line in their hair rather than these vertical points that you're doing are working with the vertical effect of the hair. I mean, hair is vertical.
Yes.
So if you go across that with a horizontal or a diagonal line, you're going to get lines in the hair.
Well, you think, and that's exactly right? You always think you have vertical length, right? You have diagonal movement, and then you have horizontal weight. So by coming through, and if you were to create these kind of points within the haircut, always again, it's open space. But that open space is just, it ends up that outside of it is so weak because it's only meant to do that. And those are the ends that start to look frazzled, you know, after the anniversary of that haircut, you know, those ends, they've celebrated a lot of birthdays. The vertical softness just allows me to create really, really great movement. Again, opening this up, you can see the silhouette of what's happening. And I'm just releasing soft points, but done on a vertical versus diagonal. And I think you made a reference to like a Christmas tree, right? And I do think that some people do this. Now, I still have just a couple more steps. Again, I hope that everyone is enjoying, but if I go through again, I like to kind of check and see where I'm at, right? I think that, number one, I think that this form looks super pretty on her. I think that's super sexy. If I put my scissors down for 1 sec, combing the hair smooth, remember seamless layers. You don't have hard, erratic high, mediums, and lows. It just melts all the way through. Yet you have short, medium to long all the way in.
And again, I know this hair has that kind of wiry texture to it. It's that kind of, it's almost a mixture of yak hair, I think. So what products again did you use for those people that kind of tuned in a little later?
I prepared the hair with the Ref Shine spray and then the leave-in conditioner. And I went through and just cast the iron. But as I come in through that inside, and I'm going to share one of my favorite tricks later on, you can see that the interior texture that's there. Now, not that that's a shape, but if they wanted volume and lift, right, on a curl, she's there, right? Yep. Which is super easy breezy because you customize the form for her. Before we finish her out, the last steps of the haircut that are very, very beautiful. Into my outside line.
For the back?
For the back, what I prefer to do is come through the haircut, taking a vertical section.
Mm-hmm.
I do work that section out. And here, I will always come back through and soften from my interior short into my exterior long and just create a softer edge.
And again, very, very fine points.
Well, I'm not shattering, right? I'm not shatter cutting it out.
But I think this is the difference, actually. I mean, I'm stressing it over and over and over, but I think sometimes we get a bit overzealous with how much hair we take away, and it's really not the hair that's taken away, it's the hair that's left behind. So, you know, going in and fine-tuning something like this makes it very delicate and very soft, whereas when you kind of go in and take big chunks out of the hair, it does create that kind of spaced and a little erratic look to the haircut.
Well, let's face it, haircutting, whenever you're into it, right? It's fun. But I think that a haircut can be overcut.
Yes.
As I shared before, this is actually even before they would go to shampoo.
Yeah.
At this point, I would have re-prepared and restyled the hair. But I want to do this because I want to give them the best blow dry later on. I want to go through and either do a curl wand set, you know, whichever. But creating my form, they see exactly what their haircut is going to be. Right? You can start to take a little more, a little less, no problem.
So this is the very, very back perimeter shape that he's holding out vertically between his fingers and actually going through and creating a very soft beveled edge on the ends of the hair with fine points.
Can you see that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
But again, I'm working from that inside. You're working from your inside out. I'm not trying to create graduation. I am just pushing the hair from the interior to the exterior. But this is allowing us to create that really nice elevated interior to exterior outline. Doing that last corner bit. Yep, sorry, that's a long distance to travel. Now last, to create just a little more movement on the inside. And this is if you choose. What I really like, this is not a new technique by any means, but on the inside of the shape. If you want a little more disconnection inside and maybe a little more weight, that you have a little more weight that you need to reduce, I work through, I continue with vertical sections. I will go back in and just create a soft weave out of the haircut, right, to remove the weight, over directing forward and back to a very soft texture, personalizing through the inside. I've removed some of the weight, but now I've created a little more of that shattering from the inside out, right? And that's a little bit of what is invisible texture, because I'm not looking to make the end skinny, over direct, and releasing weight where it's necessary. This is not a must in the haircut, but this just creates a little more sexy, playful fun. Right.
I would imagine as well on either wavy or curly hair, that's a great way of reducing down that kind of triangular look.
Yes, that you're always working with the curl as well. So it's, again, it's not a new technique by any means, but it is something that works beautifully with this haircut. Right? Seamless layering is perfect, but invisible texture is the little cherry on top, the shape. Over directing, I've done the weave. Just softening it out. I'm not shredding. I am not picking that hair up. And I mean, I think a lot of us get in there and then we just start going for it. Like, turn up that song. Yeah, that's my jam. You know, it's, I think by coming in, cut with intention, right? I think having fun with it, having a method of hair cutting versus just making it up is the key. Right, one more. Releasing that weight off of the inside. I'm still keeping those ends nice and solid, but I've now just placed softer pieces on the interior. Now, as we start to wrap up, because I think that that shape looks really quite nice, one of my favorites is working with my spray wax. Yeah?
Yep.
I work on that interior. So she's getting multi.
Out of interest, though, if you were using, say, for, you know how a lot of people are liking this kind of wavy curl, if you were using an iron, which size would you use?
Well, you know, I think, well, a couple, right? I think that with, if I had to base it, like our Co-Create wands, you know, the barrel size, I think, is the winner, you know, for sure. But this is also something that I think most will go into the classic clip, more of a traditional inch or an inch and a quarter. It's because we have that trend of working on that inside of the shape. And I think that that's really quite key. So I think with either of those, this would be that shape that just start winding through the middle.
Okay.
Yeah. And
see, one of my favorite ones, I have to say, is the conical one, because the conical is a little wider up here, so it mimics somewhere in between the large and the medium. And then you've got the smaller end. So if you want anywhere a little tighter, or if you want to do it tighter at the root and looser on the ends of the hair, you can turn it this way. If you want it tighter on the end, you can turn it this way and do the roots a little looser. So that's just something that I use a lot. And sometimes I'll do one curl up and one curl down as far as the barrel, so that you do kind of have that mimic of natural curl rather than everything looking uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've gone through just with a little bit of the spray wax, right? I like to go in with a cool shot of the dryer afterwards. Now this would of course be on just that fresh blowout. With the wax and the cool shot, it just kind of creates a nice expansion. Open up the interior texture.
It's amazing how that kind of like just the spray wax and a little drying there, the volumizes the whole look from something a minute ago that was very smooth and very flat to.
Well, the haircut, I mean, the haircut has the texture, right? So, I mean, brush that through once again. And this is not over manipulated. No. Okay, here's my smooth J, right?
Yeah.
I do always insist, right? Open fingers.
Yes.
Working on it inside.
And just agitating the root area just a little bit.
Well, you've built lots of really great texture in that haircut, right? I mean, and that is just a little bit of spray wax. It's not a magic show, you know, but it definitely, I mentioned the editorial factor, you know, earlier. I just think it's super sexy, super playful, you know, but it's a real life haircut, that it's not a, you know, look what I can do, but I'll never use this because my guests won't wear it.
Yeah, it's totally wearable.
You know, if you wanted a curtain fringe, we cut this central, you know, off of her fall. But, you know, if you wanted it left to right, no problem, right? Expand that out. And that same thing into the back, right? Where that's smooth, open this up, expand it, right? As much or as little lift as you would like. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think in that last, if you were starting to do a little bit of, the curl bondings. I think what's really pretty, as you're working that out, you can start to see how that's going to start to take easy shape. Easy shape into if that person is wanting to wear that really effortless kind of look. I'll just do this, that last little bit on each side. And one more. Let's see, it's that last little bit. Then wave, and yeah.
Again, it's the spray wax.
This is the spray wax. I'm a big fan of it. We've created our inside texture. I love this. And also, I like just that squareness of what that edge is, which I think is really, really cool. Yeah?
Yeah.
So remember, again, the seamless layering, remember, all the way through, working off of their natural fall. It's the over direction. That soft intentional point cutting, I always will reference that instead of just cutting blunt and then shattering it out afterwards, you're cutting a really strong line, yet you have soft windows, because that soft window allows those hairs to interconnect, expand out, or to get lots of volume all the way through. So that zone between your top parietal ridge connecting into your interior, which would hit no lower in the back as your occipital, and then your occipital down to your baseline. In this particular, we went through and we worked from that inside out. Later on, vertically with the soft point cutting, pushing the hair out, and then you personalize your fringe line to whichever you choose. If you are going to work into an overall set, and I know we talked about some of our favorite irons, definitely check out cocreate.biz. You can see these guys in our shop, as well as there's a lot of really great tutorials and how-tos along the way. And then of course, our feature hero products today. Remember, these were my prepared, right? Working with the leave-in conditioner and then the shine spray. That was on the dry hair and running the iron through. And then my finish was just a bit of the spray wax, which, again, what better way to show interior texture? I want this to be movable and super easy, right? We'll definitely post, any how-tos and our finished looks. We'll post those onto the Ref North America page, as well as our co-create Facebook. So with that, and I don't know, Chris, did any questions come about at all?
I haven't seen any kind of come up actually.
All right. But it's always a pleasure. The next one that we have coming up, our next co-create session for Ref North America, is on December 6th. And that is going to be about, what?
December 7th, I think it is, Monday at 10 Eastern time.
The 7th?
Yeah, that 7th, that Monday.
Yeah, I think so. I think.
It is that Monday, I'll
Yeah.
tell you that. And I know the information is there. It's an amazing styling that it's not only just about holiday, but it is styling that is super simple, easy, curl sets. And it's also, the colors are really quite electric, which is fabulous. So that is our next session. And it is going to be an earlier session. I hope that all of you can definitely, jump on and check it out. And if not, I think Natalie and Paul, you always do such a brilliant job in the record.
Aye.
Yeah.
He's going no shave November here.
Huh?
You like my beard, John?
Oh yeah, you can't see
Oh, I
it. Hold
can't
on.
see it. Hold on.
Oh, look at
Oh,
that.
fashion. We're almost twins.
Uh-huh.
What?
I just wish I had as